with the new gardener in mind, the person who's considering planting blueberries wants to get berries going in their garden. Planting them in a big mess like this is a bad idea. I think they should be in a row. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and I thought I'd just bring you out here and show you my blueberry bushes, just to discuss blueberry bushes a little bit. The success I've had with them this year, why I think I had success with them, and also some notes, some points I think that I should have borne in mind when I was planting them. So let's go here. So I got blueberries in 3 spots. I got some here, I got some here, and I got some over here, okay? I initially started with, I think, 4 plants, and I propagated them by layering. You have a branch come off the plant, you bend the branch down, you sort of dig a little trench in the ground, you put that branch under the ground, you sort of bend it up, put a little rock over it to hold it down. That branch becomes a new tree. And so, you know, the blueberries here, it started off with just 1 plant over here, and then I layered it the next year here, layered it the next year here. So I've got this whole sort of blueberry area. And same with these ones here. The original plant was over here, and I basically layered a plant to here, layered a plant to here. So I got all these plants from just a couple plants, right? This one here, one of the layers, I picked it up out of the ground and put it over there. So layering is a great way to propagate blueberry plants, but one of the things I didn't think about when I was planting all of these was that it's kind of, I mean, now that I've got, and so this all started a number of years ago, I'd say 5 years ago, and this is the first year I've got a decent yield out of these plants. Okay, so it took a while. Now there's a couple of things I did wrong during those years. One of those was pruning them too much. I mean, blueberry plants need to be pruned, but when you first plant them, and I mean, this is good advice I've gotten from Stefan Subkowiak, who I've had on my podcast a number of times. You know, he said, don't prune plants in their first few years. First 3-4 years, just leave them alone, right? The plant's putting on foliage to mature. It's trying to gather sun energy, and by removing the branches, you're just hindering its ability to gather energy from the sun. So just leave them alone and let them grow. And then, you know, once they're fully mature and they're big and that sort of stuff, that's when you start thinking about pruning for a number of reasons. But maybe we'll talk about that later in this video. One of the mistakes I made was planting them all around there. So I've got a fruit tree here. This is a pear tree. Planting them all around this pear tree, it makes it almost impossible to apply the netting. If you're growing blueberries, you have to have netting, otherwise birds will get at them, right? At the point when I first put this netting out, there was just birds. Every time I came out in the garden, basically a flock of birds would take off. Everything was at the blueberries. And even when I put the netting up, I would have birds coming in underneath the netting and getting up into there. But I think the birds, day after day after day, I would come out here and there'd be birds underneath the netting, and they'd try to fly away, and they get caught up in the netting and get, you know, greatly frightened and distressed as a result of that. And so I've noticed the last few days when I come out here, there's no birds underneath my nets. So I think they're so frightened and so distressed at getting stuck in the nets that they've sort of just decided it's a bad neighborhood and they don't want anything to do with it anymore. It's not worth it. I mean, that's my best guess. Either that or the birds that were really into my blueberries have just moved on and they're, you know, they've gone somewhere else. Yeah, they were routinely getting cut up. And I guess for that matter, I mean, this is a really high-end netting here, but this cheap dollar store stuff, it doesn't last as long, I'm sure. But I mean, you only have it out maybe 3 weeks a year, and then you should put it, you know, get it out of the UV. You should be able to get a number of seasons out of stuff like this. This is a really big, fine net. And I think this is just great stuff because it covers really well. But that speaks to another point of, if you're planting, and I mean, the whole point of this video is with the new gardener in mind, the person who's considering planting blueberries wants to get berries going in their garden. Planting them in a big mess like this is a bad idea. I think they should be in a row. I also think they should be pruned with the netting in mind, right? So you plant them in a nice long row so that you can get at either side, right? These ones here have to go right into the middle of the garden and sort of, it's almost impossible to get at some of these ones down here, right? Just very difficult. I got my kids out picking these, and I help them out, and it's a pain. And I mean, you planted these to eat them, and if you're going to eat them, you have to pick them. So planting them in a way that makes the picking difficult makes no sense, right? So, if I could do this all over again, and I'm thinking of moving all of these this fall, if I can find the time, they should all be in a long row, not side by side sort of thing, just in a long, skinny row. And they should be pruned so that the row is relatively narrow, so that when you put the netting over them, it can be effective. I also think it doesn't make any sense to have them planted in amongst a tree like this. I mean, they're good in the northern climate to have on the south side of a tree to prevent this thing that happens in the winter called Sunscald, where you got a tree and the bark is frozen, and then the sun hits one side of the bark and basically thaws out. You got one side of the tree that's frozen, one side of the tree that's thawed, and then it freezes every night. The tree basically one side of the tree freezes, and every day that same side of the tree thaws, and eventually it cracks and compromises the health of the tree. So it's good to have the blueberry bushes on the south side of the tree, but not up against them like this. They should be maybe 6 feet away, right? They're still going to shield the sun from that, sort of shield the tree from the lateral sort of, the sun basically in the winter here it's in the south and it's low on the ground, so it's sort of, the sun doesn't shine overhead, it shines sideways. But right up against the apple tree, this is a pear tree in this instance, it's not helping anything, it's not doing any good. Same with, I got a cherry tree over here, and I got this blueberry bush that's even higher than the cherry tree, so it's blocking it from the sun, so it's not doing any good. So none of that makes any sense at all. Okay. So, I mean, I put all these things in, just trying different things, and then you sort of learn your lesson. I'm 50 years old and I still learn lessons about stuff like this, right? So that's the short version of it, is that, if you're going to grow blueberries, grow them arrange them in such a way that it's going to be easy to get at them, to pick them for the harvesting. Otherwise, you're going to get lazy and you're not going to do it. You're just not, unless you're a high energy person. And also lay them out in such a way that you can effectively get your netting on them to keep the birds away, because, everything likes blueberries. So if you don't want the birds to get all your blueberries, and they'll take, there's this idea amongst a lot of gardeners that we're sharing with nature. That's a wonderful way to think. I wish the world worked that way, but the nature doesn't know you're sharing with it, right? You have a flock of starlings come into your garden. They don't know they're only supposed to take 15%. They're going to eat until they're satisfied, which means they're going to just probably take everything, right? Right? They're going to take everything that's ripe, right? And they're really good at they're the best berry pickers in the world, right? So, and there's a lot of them and they're small. So basically they're going to get all your berries, right? You can see this tree over here. This one's a different variety. That's the other thing, when you're planting blueberries, you have to have more than one variety. I think I've got 3 varieties here, right? You can't just have one type of blueberry. You have to have more than one kind so they can pollinate each other correctly. So this is a different variety, so you can see it's a little bit later, right? It's just starting to put on most of its fruit isn't even ripe yet, right? Now I've got no net over this, and because I've got it right next to that cherry tree, it's almost impossible to effectively net it anyway, right? So in the early spring, late winter, when you're pruning your blueberry bush, which again you shouldn't do till it's at least like 4 years old in my opinion, prune it with the netting in mind, right? You sort of think about that. Am I arranging this in such a way that it's going to accommodate a net? Because without the net, you don't get the berries. And the whole point of growing the plant is to eat the berries. Anyway, just a few points on growing blueberries from, a guy with some experience, but certainly not expertise. So, just some food for thought. Take it for what it's worth. I think I have to move all of these and rearrange them, and they'll probably set them back a couple of years. But the arrangement I've got right now is not. It's giving me blueberries, but it's less than ideal. So, lessons learned, right? But anyway, I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching. Hey folks, guess what? I've started a newsletter at maritimegardening.substack.com. I'll be putting out one article a week. That's 52 articles a year. The articles expand on ideas that I mention on my videos and podcasts. And every article has a read-aloud option, so you can just listen to me read it if you're busy doing something else. You can subscribe for $30 a year or try it for $5 a month and see what you think. It's a great way to help support everything I'm doing here. But hey, there's also free content too, so if you just want to read the free stuff, that's fine too. As always, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.